Good evening. This evening we have Ms. Carol Talbot. She's a speaker, best-selling author, fire starter, and an NLP expert. She's based out of Dubai. Let's welcome her.
Hello, everybody. Nice to.
Hel-
I can't see you, and I'm sure you can see me. Harry, thank you so much for this invitation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for accepting to be with us for the next 60 minutes and explain, especially on the power of subconscious mind. This show has three segments. The first segment is about you, who is Miss Carol Talbot. The second segment is more on the topic, the theme, the power of subconscious mind. The third segment is a surprise segment, which is more on a lighter note. So I'll explain what is it when we come there. Now we'll start with you. Who is Miss Carol Talbot? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. It always seems a bit less than humble to talk about yourself, except I've had a very blessed life. I had great parents and a great upbringing. And my mother was always very interested in, subjects that were a little left of center, particularly back in that time. So she was the one who introduced me to sort of alternative subjects and sort of brought homeopathy more into our world rather than allopathic medicine, bark, flower remedies. She took me along to many different weird and wonderful things and met very many interesting people as well. And it was later in my life I also learned that the interest in different areas, more the spiritual or esoteric or left of center things, was actually something that ran in my family, because I later learned that my grandfather used to read a lot of books by Madame Blavatsky or Alice Bailey, sort of back in the day. So I guess that upbringing created a desire in me to know more, a curiosity. Or some people will just say that I was a nosy Parker, because I always used to look for my presents as a kid around my birthday. But really, I'm a seeker, searcher, learner, explorer. And I love reading. I love learning. My passion really is learning. And I've also attended a lot of programs. I often say all the ologies and all the therapies. And I remember when I came across NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and I knew I'd come across something different, because when I went on the first program, a practitioner program, and I think at that time it was with Richard Bandler, one of the creators of NLP, and Paul McKenna, and a few other people as well. When I went to that first program, I knew I'd come across something different. And I knew that because I took the tools and techniques that I worked and made massive leaps forward in all areas of my life. Now, as I mentioned, I've done a lot of the ologies and therapies. And what I've discovered is a lot of the ologies and therapies are just sort of one tool or one technique. And I found that they worked some of the time for some of the people and not all of the time for all of the people. And so what I've loved and still love today about NLP is that it has so many tools. It's a real toolbox, and it helps you become aware of your patterns in thinking and behavior. And it really is mind mastery. And whether you want to meditate, whether you want to get healthy, in every area of your life, it starts with being able to master your mind, master your thoughts. So mind is static. It's the thoughts that sort of create movement, create action. So after that first dip in the water with NLP, I went on to do the Master Practitioner Program Trainers Training, because I wanted to share those tools and techniques with other people as well. And then I went on to do an apprenticeship to become a master trainer of NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. I'm also a master Firewalk instructor. So basically, I'm always looking for ways to assist people in tapping into their potential, to be more than they thought they could be. In other words, to enable people to be the difference that makes the difference. So I know with firewalking, many people ask me, why do we need more firewalkers in the world? And probably the answer to that question is no, but what the world does need, and particularly now, is people who can face their fears with courage. So the fire, the firewalk has been around in many, many cultures, especially your culture, Harry, in that it can be used for religious reasons, it can be used for energy, for purification, it can be a rite of passage. In fact, firewalking has been around for thousands and thousands of years. Why? Simply because it works. And if you think about it, we, come to a certain age where the way our neurons wire and fire together has been basically set. It's said that by the age of 35, we're kind of set in the way that we behave, respond, react, emote in any situation. Reactions really, really quickly, because it puts you into a position, a place and space where you don't know how to respond. You don't know how to react. So I love bringing forth new information, or helping people really tap into that potential. And that's also the reason that I work in a lot of different fields as well. So as well as NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, firewalking, I also work with indigenous medicine. So I work with something called Cambo, and it has many ways to heal us on an emotional, physical, mental, and emotional level. I also work with light language, again, the language of geometry, the language of color. So I love to blend and weave all these different things together. And to bring you up to date to where I am now, I wrote a book in 2016 called You, the Divine Genius. I'm just about starting another book. I thought it was going to be a video series, and I think it's going to be a book. It's about exploring our brilliance, because I really do feel that we have a lot of potential to tap into, as I said, to be more than we thought we could be. So it's time to explore just how far we can go as human beings. And I believe this time in our history, in what's going on now, is a really important time. They say chaos creates evolution, and we are in chaotic times, and it's the biggest opportunity for our own evolution. That excites me. So that's where I am right now, to bring you up to speed. Still a seeker, searcher, learner, explorer, and somebody who loves learning, particularly things that are a little bit left of center.
Thank you. Thank you so much for explaining it in a very crisp manner, and people will be able to understand exactly the areas you are involved in and how you impact them to peak their excellence and understand life in a much more better way, in especially understanding the inner potential. Thank you. We move on to the next segment, which is the power of subconscious mind. How powerful is our subconscious mind? We'll start from there.
Well, you know that I just said it's chaos or crisis that creates evolution. And, you know, even if we look back over the last sort of 10, 20 years, the pace of change, you know, particularly with the onset of the internet and information being so readily available, is kind of like mind-boggling. So we know that change is a given, yet still people resist change. So let me ask you, Harry, what do you think is the biggest barrier to change? What do you think creates that resistance?
Most of the time, it's myself or the way I think. This is what I've seen. Because more than anybody else from outside stopping me to do something or allowing me to do something, it's the hesitation which I feel here or here is the one which doesn't allow me to take the first step. This is what I've realized.
Okay, and you're actually more on the right track, because when I ask that question, often people say, oh, fear, and there's certainly a lot of fear in the world at the moment, or people say comfort zone, like they like doing the same old thing. Actually, you're right in a way. Our biggest barrier to change is our very own conscious mind.
Correct.
Because the way that you're hardwired, your conscious mind is constantly analyzing, criticizing, and judging everything that's going on, whether it's what I'm saying, what I'm wearing, what you're doing. It's analytical, it's judgmental, it's also reactive. So the way I like to describe the sort of the conscious and the unconscious mind, and by the way, I never call it the subconscious mind. I'll just digress here. There's a reason, because language is so important, Harry, so important. And the word sub often gives the implication that it's less than. You know, when you hear people talk about their team and they say my subordinates, which means the people who are under me or less than me. So I always like to refer to the subconscious as the unconscious mind. There's also another reason in terms of hypnosis. Hypnosis plays a lot on words as well, with, you know, double meanings. So if I want to say you're unconscious, am I talking about you're unconscious, or am I talking about your unconscious mind? So when you use ambiguous language, what happens is it partially suspends the conscious mind. And when you keep using ambiguous language, then it suspends the conscious mind and puts you into a light trance, which is a great way to be able to get information across. So that's the two reasons that I tend to use the word unconscious rather than subconscious. Okay, but they're the same. And also now I like to work with the superconscious when I'm working in hypnosis, but I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So one of the analogies I like to give about the conscious and the unconscious mind is, if you think of the conscious mind as a screen, as what you're watching on right now, and a keyboard. You can key in information on your keyboard, and it appears on the screen, and you respond and react to it. Yeah. Or you read information on the screen and you respond and react to it, because the conscious mind is reactive. Yes. However, you can't type anything in, nothing's going to appear on your screen unless it's connected to a hard drive. And essentially, your unconscious mind is the hard drive. Essentially, it's a recording and playback device that forms the habit mind. And it's ultimately much, much more powerful than the conscious mind. Also, your conscious mind is responsible for all learning, all behavior, and change. So if you want to learn anything new, it's the unconscious mind. Now, of course, it may go through conscious awareness. However, all learning is stored at the unconscious level. So, Harry, if I say to you, tell me your mobile number, and I'm not going to get you to say it out loud, else you may get a million calls from, or strange calls from strange people calling you. But you can come up with your mobile number immediately. Where was it before I asked you? It was stored at the unconscious level. And then, of course, all behavior is also the domain of the unconscious mind. So if you had your dinner this evening, are you sitting there going, I just digest that piece of rice and that curry and that dal? You're not sitting there doing that. Your body gets on with it. And if you think about, if we had to consciously beat our heart every second, it would probably go something along the lines of, whoops, forgot, dead. So the more important the body function is, the more likely it is to be the domain of the unconscious mind. And then, of course, you get round to change. And of course, we wonder why change is so challenging for ourselves, and we wonder why it's so challenging for other people. And it's because it's the domain of the unconscious mind. Now, actually, the now that you're experiencing right now actually registered at the unconscious level at least half a second ago. Now, this isn't something that I just made up while I was preparing for our talk tonight. This actually came about through 15 years of research by a neuroscientist called Benjamin Liebe. Now, the question there is, why is it so important? Well, let me give you a sort of little metaphor. Let's say you're driving along and you get cut up in traffic. And you can relate to this because you know where you are. It's a thing that happens on a regular basis. I've driven over there. I know what it's like. In fact, I don't think you need to do firewalking. Just drive. That could be a experience. But let's say you get caught up in traffic, you curse, you get upset, you shout at that person, and then after a few minutes you calm down and you say to yourself, I don't know why I get so het up about that. The next time that happens, I'm going to remain calm and in control. So that's consciously what you tell yourself. 15 minutes later, what happens? You get caught up in traffic and you curse, you scream, you get upset again. How come when you told yourself you were going to remain calm? This is because the information hits the unconscious level first, and you respond and react based on the programs and patterns you have stored at the unconscious level. These are programs and patterns that may have been installed in your childhood that you're still operating from. And just as a little sideline here, just think about it. From the moment we're born, Harry, we're told our name, our gender, our race, our colour. We're told what to believe in, what we can do, what we can't do. Then we're sent to school and we're taught the history that they want us to know, whether it's the real history or not. We are then tested on that. Then when we are tested and we don't get a good result, we're rated as low or high. Then they introduce sports to us. Somebody wins, somebody loses, and thus sets up the programs and patterns. All this happening to cover up our true brilliance of who we are, our innate intelligence of who we are. The innate intelligence that your body knows what to do when you take a bite of an apple. It intrinsically knows what nutrients to take from that, what to discard. So and not only that, we're bringing the ancestral line, the karmic patterns. We've got all this weighing us down. So we think that we're free. But if you're looking at this screen, you'll see that there's a sort of boundary around this screen. We live in this boundary of what we've been taught, what we've been told. And so this is the programs and patterns that we are operating from. And here's the scary thing, Harry. When you say how much power does the unconscious have over us? Well, it's estimated that you are operating from conscious awareness maybe less than 5% of the time. And honestly, 5% of the time would be people who are more aware of who they are, their potential, and what they're doing. For the majority of people, it's only 1% of the time are we operating from conscious awareness. So even when you think you're consciously making a decision, that decision is based upon programs and patterns and what you've done before. Going back to what I said about firewalking, that they reckon at the age of 35, we're basically 95% set in who we are, how we respond, how we react, and what patterns and programs that we operate from. So that's quite frightening. So what power does the unconscious mind have over us? A lot. And the good news is, when you start to become aware of those programs and patterns, it starts to open up the box. Okay. You know, it's like if you go and see a mentor and you have a problem, what's happening is if you take a torch and go in a dark warehouse and you shine the torch in the dark warehouse, you can only see what you're shining that torch on. But with a mentor, what they do is they take that torch for you and they shine it in other areas so you can see other possibilities. And I always say, what's bigger, your problem or everything in the whole universe that's not your problem? Which is the reason that you can always smile and have a laugh when somebody comes and says they've got a problem. Because you know all you need to do is help them with that torch and shine it in other areas. And so sometimes all you need to do to start recognizing these programs and patterns is to switch on the light, to see what's tripping you up. And then you have the choice of either moving the wires aside so you don't need to trip on that, keeping the light on. Sadly, what happens is most people switch the light off again and they continue tripping. I'll give you a lovely example of this. You know, I had a beautiful woman came to me recently, and she's so talented, so gifted, and I was helping her, you know, see and recognize it once again that she is talented and gifted, very pretty young woman, young as well. And she said she'd, you know, always had her choice of boyfriends, but she hadn't dated for the last 4 years. And I said, how come? And she said, well, the last relationship, she said, I knew it wasn't right. This goes back to the innate intelligence, our intuition, which we all have and we forget to listen to. You know, we have our 5 senses, then we have the sense of knowing and the intuition as well. So we don't just have 5 senses, we have more than that. And you know, your gut talks to you as well if something's not right, or if you're in stress.
Yes.
So she said it hadn't been a great relationship, and as a result of that, she had not dated since. And I said, how come? You know, you had all those other great experiences before, and then you have one bad one, and you let that color your life. And to me, it's a little bit like the buffet of life, or you go to a buffet, and there's so much there. And you go and you take something from the buffet and you taste it and you go, oh, that's horrible, I don't like that. Now, if you don't like it, are you going to go back to that buffet and taste it again? No, you're going to go for something else on the buffet to see, oh, let me try this, let me try this. And if you taste something that you don't like, you're not going to have it again. So
Yes.
to me, it was a bit like, why would you think if you tasted something that you don't like or had an experience that you don't like, for what reason would you think that you go and choose that again? And this is the sad thing that most of us do. We have one bad experience and it colors all the others. We set that as the precedent. We set that as the program at the unconscious level. Because basically we are creatures of patterns and habits. And it's those patterns in thinking and behavior that create our circumstances or response to circumstances, not the circumstances themselves. So as I said, the first key really is to start recognizing those programs and patterns. And like a computer, if they're not working, if you're not getting the results that you want, it's asking yourself, so what pattern or program or belief am I operating from? What would I have to believe about myself to have my life not working in the way that I want it? And as I said, that's where a lot of the tools and techniques that I work with, whether it's in NLP or firewalking, with Canva, with light language, with hypnosis, or particularly working with the superconscious mind, because the superconscious mind has access to the bardo. The bardo is the life between lives. Michael Newton talked about that in his wonderful books. It has access to the Akash, to our karmic patterns. So when you're working with the superconscious, it knows exactly what to do. It can bring you back to your perfect blueprint. So it's a wonderful way to work. And also the power of our mind to transform those programs, our gifts, our brilliance truly is within. I don't know whether you ever read any books. They're called The Many Lives of Masters of the Far East. They were at the end of in the late 1800s. It was a series of books by a wonderful guy called Baird Spalding, who went with a group of 11 people to India, Tibet, Pakistan, many different places. And he met many different masters who could walk on water, where you see these amazing buildings or monasteries that are built into the rocks. How do they actually get up there? And that they could be one place 1 minute and another. And, you know, when you read books like that or you meet masters like that, it opens your eyes to the possibility that we are more brilliant. We have been dumbed down. And, you know, this is what I love exploring and sharing with people, to, you know, look within, because our brilliance lies there. It truly does.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Very well explained, especially when you said about the torch. It's easy to actually even visualize and understand how it is to seek support of a mentor, especially when we are in need of help.
Yes, they just shine light in a different way. And also that the first key, Harry, has to be mastering your mind, mastering your thoughts. Because even if you're going to, you know, tap into your brilliance within, you know, mind is static. Your thoughts create the movement. However, it's recognizing, are your thoughts moving you forward or in the opposite direction? And then you notice the programs that you're operating from and how you need to find a way to get your conscious mind and your unconscious mind working in harmony. So I think the old adage is that, you know, you can liken your conscious and unconscious mind like a rider and a horse. It's the rider that sets direction. It wouldn't be very good at getting a horse to set your direction for you. It's the horse, your unconscious mind, that gets you to your direction. However, it takes everything very literally. So if you say you want more money, it'll sort of, you'll be walking along, find more money, you'll find a small coin on the road, and you'll pick it up and go, oh, it's nothing. But your unconscious mind is going, yay, she wanted more money, I found her more money. You have to be specific, you have to be precise.
Okay, now, when we come in order to understand, okay, now first one is this. The second one is, how do we reprogram? One is realizing that there is a need required for me to change, to attain, or to reach where I want to go. So in that path, how do I reprogram my thoughts, or so that my alignment is correct to the goal which I want to reach?
Okay, so the first thing is recognizing if your programs and patterns are helping you or hindering you. And often, Harry, it can just be as simple as recognizing the wire that's tripping you up and moving the wires aside. It can sometimes be as simple as that, just recognizing it's like, okay, duh, couldn't I have seen that before? You know, we've all had those aha moments where it seems so obvious. It's a bit like, you know, you can't see your own backside. You know, it's like somebody switches the light bulb on. There's many other ways, you know, and as I said, we are creatures of patterns and habits. It's like the trigger and response. So many people wake up with an alarm clock. So when the alarm clock goes, that's the trigger. What's the conditioned response? For some people, it may be hit the snooze button. For others, it may be leap out of bed and greet the day. If you see a red traffic light, the red traffic light is the trigger. The conditioned response is to stop. In meetings, in your organization, if a meeting is called, that's the trigger. The conditioned response could be fantastic, a meeting, I can share my creative ideas, or more likely, oh no, not another meeting. And even, you know, each of us is also a trigger and response. So when people see you, when they hear your name, when they hear your voice, do they go, oh no? Or do they go, oh yes? So we are subject to trigger response. And many people will be aware of the old examples from Ivan Pavlov, the Russian who did the famous experiment with the salivating dogs, that when the dogs were hungry, he'd show them some meat, they'd salivate. He did it again and again and again, to the point where he could ring the bell, and even if there was no meat there, the dogs would salivate. And actually, a lot of intelligent marketing is based around conditioned response. Well, of course, we as human beings are also sort of lean, mean, conditioned machines. We are subject to trigger and response. So these are the programs and patterns. So the question is, can you change the conditioned response? In other words, create new neurological connections? And the answer is yes. There was an interesting study done in Australia with a psychologist, I think he was called Alan Richardson. He took a basketball team and he split the group in three. And the first group were allowed to practice popping the ball into the net. The second group were allowed to visualize, no physical practice. And the third group, no physical practice and no visualization. Well, this is the power of neuroplasticity and our ability to create new neurological connections. In other words, you can teach an old dog new tricks, because the results were astounding. They found that the group that had visualized only, no physical practice, weeks later, were almost as good as the group who had physically practiced popping the ball into the net. So this shows us that sometimes it's simply through visualization that we can create new neurological connections. Also, within the work that I do, particularly with NLP, what I love about it is it has so many different tools and techniques that we can literally shift an unwanted behavior or belief in 10 minutes or less. And it's permanent. Yes, it's permanent. It's a bit like having a plug in a socket, that when you plug that plug in the socket, it's going to behave in that particular way. And you pull that plug out of that socket, put it into a new socket, it behaves in a completely different way. So, I'm often asked with people who have fear around presentations, particularly when they have peers in their audience. Well, we can't move the people who are in the audience. So we
Yes.
can't change the trigger. What we can do is change your response to the trigger. So if somebody says, Carol, when he looks at me in a particular way, I get nervous. So I can't change the way he looks. However, I can change the way that you respond. In other words, change that conditioned response. Remember the example I gave about,
Yes. Yes.
when you get cut up in traffic, such that your response is different. And then what we do is we usually give tasking to reinforce the shift and change, because of course many people have the belief that it's going to take 30 days to make or break a new habit, and that really with NLP is not the case. Change happens in a heartbeat the moment you make that decision. And so you've got visualization, you've got a lot of the tools and techniques from the NLP toolbox, and you've also got the Firewalk, or what I call those kind of blow your mind kind of experiences. For the reason that I gave earlier, that by the age of 35, we're kind of like hardwired the way we respond and behave. So one of the reasons that I do those kind of breakthrough experiences, whether it's board breaks, arrow breaks, firewalks, those blow your mind experiences, is because when people come to those experiences, they've got no neurological connections of knowing how to respond or react. It's like, so yes, does it sometimes put them in fear? Does it sometimes put them into chaos? But what it does is when people do walk across those coals, it creates new neurological connections that beg the question, if I can do that, what else can I do in my life? And as I said earlier, it's chaos or crisis that creates evolution. And you only have to look back in terms of your life. We've all had the shit hit the fan, so to speak, at certain times in our life. When we've had either a financial crash, a physical fall, or emotional breakdown. And at the time, it was horrible. And when you move forward, it propels you forward in a really quick way, that it really, it does create evolution. You look back and you think, gosh, I really grew through that. Which is, when we look at what's happening in the world now, it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for evolution. It's like all the oil is coming to the surface as, people talk about going back to normal or going back to the way things were. We have an opportunity to shift in a way that wasn't possible before. And Harry, when I think even over the last 4 or 5 months, and I was speaking to a friend the other day, and I say, gosh, I really feel like I've leapt forward exponentially in these last few months. And have you felt the same?
I kind of felt what change would have come in another 5 or 8 years. In this small, it was forcefully pushed, and then it has come now, because I never thought all the meetings would be online. I never thought all the education would be online, and suddenly I see no barriers, no boundaries. You're sitting in Dubai, I'm sitting here in Chennai, in India, and we are able to communicate. And then there are people sitting in US. We have partnership with America TV, so US viewers, UK viewers are seeing now. So suddenly all these things, I mean, the borders have just vanished. And also the other side, what I see, more importantly, people have started to perform, and the productivity has become 2 times, 3 times, in some cases even 5 times. Which, why
Absolutely.
was it not in the previous period, or why didn't it happen before? We don't know. But when the crisis came, it actually, whoever was ready to adapt was able to perform or to cope up with what is required or realign themselves. This is what I see.
Yes, it's created a real opening in creativity, and also a much deeper awareness of who we are, what potential we have.
Correct.
So I really feel that it's shifting people in a way that, like you say, it would have taken 8, 10 years maybe to get that, because we've been forced to do something differently. And also, here's the other thing, chaos creates massive energy. And everything in our universe is made up of energy. You know, you, me, energy forms the building blocks of matter. And, you know, you're in the frequency and energy that you operate from creates your outer world. And the only way to change your outer world, if you don't like it, is to shake up that energy, to move differently, to be energy, to emit a different frequency. You know, and all organisms read energy. And as human beings, we've got very, very lazy in recognizing energy. And yet, you know, we walk into a room and we can kind of like feel if something's off or on. In fact, just recently I was watching a documentary, and they showed two people sitting down, and they took a photograph of these two people together with a particular lens. And then they moved the people, and the picture they took was using particular equipment that showed their energy field when they were sitting down. Then he took a second picture of the two empty chairs where they had been sitting, showed them that their energy field was still in the chairs. And to me, that also shows, Harry, the influence and impact that we have, the imprint that we leave. And now, of course, the imprint that we have, the opportunity to leave in different ways, working online or smiling or sharing knowledge or laughing. I mean, and you know, you with this platform that you created and bringing your wisdom and humanitarian aspects to a wider audience, you know, it's fantastic what you're doing, Harry. And again, I really thank you. Thank you for remembering. And, you know, I just want people to know that we met in 2012, was it?
Correct.
In Dubai at an event. And, you know, it was a TEDx, so I only had sort of 18 minutes. And, you know, it's you never know how far these connections go. You know, what little sparkle or light you can spread around the world. That it really can go far, and we really have far more influence than we feel. We often feel alone at this time and think, what can I do? And yet, you know, even a simple smile and kindness goes such a long way these days. It really does. So thank you for bringing this platform to a wider audience and the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, when we talk about visualization, the power of that, because like while you were saying, like, you know, there were two teams and one team were practicing, the other team were made to only visualize, and they were almost close. So can we talk on a little bit of power of visualization and how it would help now? Because what is happening is the impact is in multi-layer level. We have some who are working, some who own business, and some are consultants. And all the three layers have different kind of working pattern, and all the three layers have been hit with because of this lockdown and all the other issues related to the COVID and Corona. So because of this, I see people are not able to, like, whoever had certain goals, very few percentage are still holding on to it, but most of them have lost. I wouldn't say hope is a big word to say, but they feel that that light is slowly becoming dim, or probably they feel the candle which they're holding is not going to sustain till the end of the tunnel. So I would like you to share or shed light on power of visualization and how this will help, especially in this scenario.
It goes back to what I said earlier, that we have much more power within us and much more intelligence available to us than we believe. You know, we have the brain in our head. We have a brain in our heart, which they identified that it doesn't look like the brain in our head, it wouldn't fit, but there is an intelligence in the heart. And if you've done any or looked at heart math, you know, the electromagnetic field that the heart emits is huge. There's also gut intelligence. You know, if you've eaten something a bit dodgy, your stomach's going to tell you about it, and the enteric nervous system really speaks to it. That's part of the gut. And then we have even a single cell in your body, and we're made up of billions, has the ability to make decisions in unforeseen difficulties. Not only that, each cell holds a blueprint for who you are physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, which means each time you learn something new, your cells are being constantly updated. And I share this because I want you, everyone there, to sort of really understand that we truly are brilliant. And so when chaos or a situation like this happens, our mind goes all over the place. And one of the first things I said is, and one of the reasons I loved NLP was to have mastery over your mind. So, you know, mind, as I said, is static, but it's the thoughts that kick it into action. And we do not have an idea, most of us don't have the idea of how much our thoughts impact our reality. Again, there was something I was watching again that brought forth new technology, which gives you a visual of how your thoughts are energy and how they impact matter. So the technology shows you your thoughts, the geometry it creates, the colors it creates. And I'm not sure if you're aware of the field of cymatics, but the field of cymatics gives the impact of how, a visual of how sound impacts matter. So they usually put sand or water, and then they play music or chants, and you see the music or the sand or the frequency shift the sound or the music into different geometry. It's quite stunning. And that shows you how our words have sound, our words have thoughts and intentions behind them, and how our thoughts impact our energy. They are so much more powerful. So when you talk about visualization, you know, I get a lot of people who say, you know, we all visualize, by the way, we all visualize, else you'd wake up in the morning, look at your partner and go, oh, who are you? Or you wouldn't be able to recognize your car, or you wouldn't be able to sort of get home. You'd say, what is my house? We all, but many people are not aware that we visualize. We all visualize. But most of us have got this sort of monkey mind. And, you know, this is really the time, this is really what Eckhart Tolle has been talking about for so long, the power of now. And, you know, if we can learn to be in that stillness, Harry, when we're in that stillness and master our mind, we tap into the superconscious, we tap into the unified field. And I share this because I've been a person who's always seeking, searching, looking, going for goals, making things happen. Been an action person. However, you know, I've had some very interesting mentors, and I know there's been some very frustrating time when they said, you just need to do nothing. And I was like, you know, well, you know, I'm doing nothing. Now will something happen? You know, I've done nothing for a whole week. You know, it's really uncomfortable and irritating. Honestly, it was irritating. I'm sharing this because maybe it'll resonate with people, that we have such a need to do something, that I've come to a place where it's really quite extraordinary, Harry. It's quite magical, where to a certain extent it can seem like I'm doing nothing. And I went through a phase where I didn't look at my websites, didn't send a newsletter, no marketing, nothing. Where it was as if the unified field, where everything is possible, everything you can imagine and beyond what you can imagine, finds you. And what I discovered is when I'm here, going out and about, the unified field has opportunities for me, but I'm always moving, it can't find me. Okay. When I'm still, things come to me beyond my visualizations, beyond things that I could imagine. Last year in August, I was asked to write and be part of a documentary to do with the Thank You Plant Medicine movement with, you know, indigenous medicines. We've already done some of the filming in Holland. We're also putting a news channel together for the Thank You Plant Medicine movement. And it was somebody who'd come to me for a session 2 years ago. He sent me the information and then invited me, and I never could have imagined writing a documentary. And by the way, although he knew I'd written a book, it's very different writing a book and writing a documentary. So what I've discovered is the more I can still my mind, that I can tap into who I truly am and tap into the unified field, that I no longer have to worry where things come from. Now, I share this because, as you said, a lot of people are going through panic, may have lost their job, may not be doing things the same way. And what worked before isn't going to work now, because people, to a certain degree, Harry, I love what you're doing, because what I'm seeing out there turns my stomach to a certain degree in terms of how can we make money, sell, push programs onto people, or you see, make $1 million, make $1 billion. This is a time to be of service. This is a time, if you're in business, to say, what do my customers need that I can provide that I'm not providing right now? This is the time to ask better questions, to stand in your customer's shoes and say, if I were my customer, what would they need to feel, see, and hear such that I can provide that for them? If you've lost your job, and this is where I'm very grateful that I work for myself. However, if you've lost your job, you have skills, you have gifts, you have talents. Many people have been in jobs that they didn't like. But here's the thing, it starts with most people, even in their job, want to feel purposeful. They want to feel worthwhile. So even if you're not working, where can you be of service? Where are there people who are even worse off than you that maybe you're good at graphic design and you could design something from them. Maybe you're good in customer service and could help somebody deliver something. So for example, when we went into lockdown here, all the taxi drivers who work, 12-hour shifts, work non-stop, nothing. But what they could do is deliver food or deliver objects or say, can I deliver a note for you to a friend or something? So now is a time to visualize outside of the box. And because we're in different times, the goals that you're setting now may never be realized, because new things are going to come into this world that, in terms of technology, we're not 100 years behind in the technology that is hidden from us. We're 1,000 years behind in the technology that is being hidden from us. So I want to say to people who are panicking, your mind is going all over the place. Master your mind. Your thoughts is the first place. See where you can be still, and everybody can serve in some way. And that brings you back to being on purpose. So it's good to visualize, and I sort of know I went a little off track there, but I know so many people that I speak to have this monkey mind because they're in panic mode, to come back to that stillness and find it within. And it may only be for 30 seconds that you can hold that stillness, but that still connects you to you, your brilliance, and the unified field.
Okay, thank you. How do we allow ourselves or give permission ourselves to be successful? Because I'll go back to the first question, where it is me who's stopping me from being successful. And you said we have to allow, but are there any techniques or daily regimens which I have to follow?
Yes and no. And I say this because each one of us has a different fingerprint. We're all unique. I don't know whether you saw, I just watched it. I watch very little TV, and I usually, if I do go to a channel, it's Gaia. However, I did watch a series on Netflix called Messiah. And I actually found it very interesting from the perspective that when he was asked, why do you call yourself the Messiah? He said, I don't. They call me that. Why do you have all these followers? He said, I don't. They chose to follow me. But what was interesting is that we all want somebody to tell us what to do. We all want a particular formula that's going to work for everybody. And, we are so brilliant as human beings. We have so much to tap into. that one size does not fit all. It's really about finding a regimen that works for you. So for me, do I meditate every single day? Yes. Do I often get up early for Kriya? Yes. Do I sometimes chant? Yes. Do I eat and fast on a regular basis? Yes, I often do a water fast. And I find I'm light in body and light in mind because we are light beings. I was also, during lockdown, it got cancelled. I was due to be on a breatharian program where we're in the dark for 9 days, pitch black, 9 days. So you learn to see without your eyes, you see different things, and you're not eating. So your body becomes very light, but you're living off prana. So this is a path that I want to explore. Everybody's path is different. And if you are expecting to go, whether it's Muji, Sadhguru, Rupert Spira, or you're expecting to have a guru to tell you what to do, you may follow their path for a while. But ultimately, I said, we have more than the five senses. We have our sense of knowing, and we have our sense of intuition. And, here we've got people in the world who are very pro-vaccinations. We've got the people who are anti-vaccinations. We've got people who say you must wear a mask, people who say that's a load of rubbish. You have to respect that there's different ways, there's different paths. It's about finding your own. And if you listen, whether it's Sadhguru, Muji, their path to enlightenment or awakening were all totally, totally, totally different. Totally different. Sadhguru, he couldn't have been further away from taking a spiritual path, but just all of a sudden, things happened. All of them have different. So it's about finding a routine or a way that works for you. And this has been my path as an explorer, that I've traveled extensively. I've done so many different things, as I said, many ologies and erapes. When I found that I was going to teachers, and I always used to expect, this is it, only to find it wasn't it. And now I know that when I do courses, and don't get me wrong, Harry, I love, love, love learning. I do it for the pure joy and to come across information that I haven't. Do I expect it to be the thing? It may add to my journey. And I found that it's given me far more joy and happiness and less stress. Okay, so in terms of visualizations, there's many paths: focusing on a candle, using a mantra, doing a sound bath, listening to crystals, a guided meditation, many. Explore and enjoy the exploration till you find something that makes your heart sing.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now we move on to the third segment. I'll give you a situation, and you should come up with something creative. I'm giving you a time machine now. You can go back to whichever year you want. You can spend time with your favorite leader for a couple of weeks, and then come back to 2020, write a book on what you learned being with him for 2 weeks. Who would be the leader, and what would you like to learn? Over to you.
Okay. I would like to go probably just a little way into the future, maybe 4 or 5 years, because I do not believe this is a time to focus too far in the future. We're at a pivotal time where we're opening up to a golden age and shifting into different frequencies. So I would like to go into the future, maybe 5 years, when things have now settled, so that I can come back and literally say to people, it's going to be okay. And by the way, Harry, I truly believe that we have already, time travel is not something that's out there. It's something that is already happening. There are people who've developed these machines, and this goes back to the 1940s. So it's not new. Time travel has already happened. However, what I would like to do is to peep in to see a lot of the new technology that is about in terms of the way that the new monetary system, the new medical systems, the new transportation systems that are available and start to open people's eyes to some of that new technology that is coming in. And in terms of a leader, there are some leaders that I would like to see where they go, and I have my own ideas, and I think it would be rather controversial. And based on what I said earlier, I'm not a kind of guru or leader follower. I tend to beat my own drum. So that's what I'd like to do. Only go maybe 5 years, because I do believe we're already moving into a new age that's already started by bringing all the oil to the surface. So for me, because I'm a nosy Parker and curious, I'd like to kind of like go, ooh, 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 I like that. And it's funny, Harry, because even at the end of my last book, it's called You, the Divine Genius, I said, I wish there was a device where you could, like a watch, where it would show you your frequency and what you're actually creating in the world. There is that device is already out. That shows you what frequency that you're operating from and can adjust your frequencies. There is all of that is, so it just shows you that when we put those thoughts out there, those thoughts, anything you can imagine, it's already in the unified field. Anything. And this goes back to, as I said, people think, oh, that'll never happen to me. That's because you've put this boundary condition around yourself based on what we've been taught, told. Yeah, that history, it's all wrong. So now is the time to cut the ancestral line, shatter the beliefs of who we think we are, and be more of who we truly are, and less of who we've been taught we are.
Okay, thank you. Now the next question is, I'm giving you a magical wand, and with that you can, with one swish, you can change one thing globally, immediately. Even before this program will end, you will be changing it. What would one thing you like to change?
The pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
Once that collapses, the financial institutes also collapse, and we open up to a new way of health and healing and technology that has been hidden from us. I'm sorry, Harry, but I feel that there's a place for allopathic medicine. I do not deny that. However, I feel a lot of allopathic medicine is money orientated, and it breaks my heart, and it's criminal what is done, and it feeds into how we treat animals, what we eat, everything like that. And I'm so grateful that I chose over 30 years ago to be a vegetarian. I'm vegan, eat very light. So to me, the magic wand is be gone. That pharmaceutical structure.
Okay. Now we move on to the gratitude segment, where you can go ahead and thank people who have helped you to be who you are. Basically, people who you owe your success to. You can name them and thank them. You can pay your gratitude to them. Go ahead, please.
I was very blessed by my upbringing. I thank my mom for giving me a view that's left of center. And for a long time, we didn't get on. And now we do. And I'm so grateful. She's 89 and a gift every day. Other people, I have many healer friends. So Zoe Henderson, we often swap sessions. Some of my mentors, like Mas Sajadi, his patience when I was getting, I've been still for a week and I now have something. Who else? Robert Smith, who showed me different ways to use NLP. John Overdorf, Julie Silverthorne, also in the field of NLP. Peggy Dillon, often referred to as the mother of the Western firewalking movement. Such a beautiful, beautiful heart and soul. Philip Gruber, another of my mentors. Star Fuentes, absolutely extraordinary woman that I met by pure chance at the Cryon Convention in Arkansas, meeting, what's her name? Lynn Twist, who heads up the Pachamama Alliance, and such a woman of heart. I'm grateful for all my friends, and there's so many people that I've had the opportunity to learn from, as well as the books and documentaries that have impacted me. So, Harry, I could go on for hours and hours and hours. And one other thing that may seem less than humble is, you know, I'd like to thank you as well for inviting me and remembering me. You know, whenever I speak at events, it's not about me, it's what the audience get. It's if I've had the opportunity to switch on one light bulb. So this may seem less than humble, but I'm really grateful to myself for having an attitude of curiosity, that willingness to learn, and traveling alone to many odd and weird places and being open to say yes. And also noticing the triggers that get pushed by friends, family, because it's the good, bad, ugly experiences that again make you more of who you are and less of who you're not. You know, one of my favorite quotes is the path to mastery means the letting go of everything in your life that represents mediocrity. That's really, you know, what mastery is all about. And, you know, I mean, so one other person I want to mention, we had about a 3-hour conversation the other day. I call him my soul brother. He's in Canada. I met him in 2013. And when we speak, which isn't always often, but we're, you know, such that connection, and he's in Canada. And so I love what you're creating, these different connections around the globe. I've had a mastermind group. We called ourselves Moms, Masters of Mastery. Sunil Jaiswal, Ramesh Halu. And, you know, even though we don't meet now as a mastermind group, we're still in contact. We still are there to help each other out. You know, so many people. There's Taslim, and I wouldn't have a clue of how to pronounce his surname, but how he came to me to help me with all my IT stuff out of the blue. What a blessing, and what a wonderful person he is now back in India. But if ever I get stuck with technology, he's taught me so much about, you know, letting go and landing over to other people. So Harry, I'm sure you're the same, that list of people that you learn from, and in sometimes the most unusual places and spaces. To me, everyone in this world can be your opportunity to growth, because we are the creators. We're in resonance with what we're creating, and whether you're creating harmony or dissonance, that's your creation. And therefore, you know, in this world of duality, you know, it's like going back to that buffet. You taste it and go, oh, I don't like that, or I love that.
Thank you so much for sharing a lot of important information, which is definitely required for all of us at this time more than ever. You accepted graciously to spend 60 minutes. You have crossed 60 minutes of your time. Thank you so much, Mr. Any closing remarks from you?
I just ask people maybe to remember that quote, the path to mastery, and mastery of yourself means the letting go of everything in your life that represents mediocrity. That's when you can step into your true brilliance.
Thank you.
Thank you. And speak to you soon again, I hope.
Yeah, thank you. That was Miss Carol Talbot from Dubai. I met her in 2012, 8 years before. And she was the first speaker in the TEDx Chennai. Thanks to Pooja Gupta for introducing me to her. When she got onto the stage, and the entire 1,000 people who were the audience, within a matter of few seconds, she was able to bring them all on. You know, they were all sitting there. She made them stand up, and then she gave certain activities where they were fully charged, and then the whole program went on with that. She set the tone in such a high energy level, and the program went, and it was something which I can't forget. And when I was thinking of a subconscious, or how she refers as unconscious mind, and the power about it, power of unconscious mind, I couldn't think of anybody else apart from Miss Carol Talbot. any topic related to this and much more. She's a person to get in touch with. She's based in Dubai. She has a website, and please do get in touch with her if you have any information requirement, or if you would like to understand more and peak your excellence. Thank you for watching.